Yo, what's up guys? This is Midnight Wabbit and welcome to some Outriders, and I'm definitely going to be covering this game a lot more on my channel. This is my first Outriders video and I'm really excited to cover this game some more. I've been falling in love with this game over the past day or two. And I actually didn't play it the day it launched on April 1st because I completely forgot. I had it pre-ordered and everything. I just didn't download it and everything. I just forgot it came out. And I was like really bored that day too. It's unfortunate because I could have been like a day farther into the end game. But I did manage to make it. I am in the end game now with my Technomancer. This is the character that I ended up playing through the story first on and to get to the end game. So I'm level 30, which is the max level. The max item level, I believe, is like 50 or something like that. And so the way that works is we'll maybe cover that in a different video. But basically, that's all based on the end game stuff. But the actual highest character level you can get to is 30. So real quick, what I want to do is I'm going to cover the skill tree that I have. So this build, basically, you put out a ton of damage. So before I go into the skill tree, let's cover the actual skills. That would make more sense. The Technomancer was not my first choice. I was going to play Trickster, but it seemed like everyone was playing Trickster, not just random people, but like also my friends as well. I didn't want to be like in my friends group have the same person or everyone play the same character. I wanted to mix it up a little bit, so I decided to play Technomancer, and so I leveled him up from scratch. I actually had a Trickster from the beta, but I'd never played Technomancer. And so I leveled him up, and I was going to actually switch to my Trickster once I got to a high enough level because my friend had to start a fresh character. And it ended up that we didn't... I actually enjoyed the Technomancer so much that I just didn't even switch. I was having so much fun. And so this build is based around this ability. It's called Blighted Rounds. It's very similar to the Trickster's Twisted Rounds that give you bonus gun damage. So I'm going to read this. So fill your current weapons magazine with decay-infused bullets that inflict toxic onto enemies. Enemies within a small radius will also receive toxic and 50% of the damage dealt. The skill lasts until you reload or switch weapons. Now, this build is focused on Blighted Rounds, how we can have this skill active at all times. And we pretty much can. There's very few situations where this skill is not active. We can pretty much have infinite Blighted Rounds with the build I have, and I'll show you guys how that works in a minute with the mods and everything and the skills. But, so, we're using Blighted Rounds. That's the number one most important thing. If you want the build to function the way it does in the gameplay, then you're going to want this perk. If you want the build to function the way it does for me, you're definitely going to want this perk. This is the most important, not perk, this is the most important ability for this build. And I'm sure there's anomaly builds and whatnot that you can do that are very strong with some of the rocket launchers and the turrets and stuff for this, but I think you need different mods for that, so maybe I'll experiment with that once I get farther into the end game and get some better mods for that. But as of right now, this is the build I used for leveling up, and I'm still using it now in the end game, and it's still extremely strong in the end game. So I haven't actually changed my build at all. So Blighted Rounds, fixing wave, release an energy blast that restores 33% of your health to all players and 50% health to turrets regardless of distance. Now, these two skills, I use this one for survivability. I will even use this playing solo. This is a healing skill, but I will use this even when I'm playing solo just to get that health bump back. It's really, really nice to have if you get hit by like a tough enemy. They hit you like a hard attack, from a boss or something like that. This is very nice to have. And then it gets even better when you play co-op because you can heal yourself and your friends at the same time. I also use Cold Snaps to drop. It drops like a little canister that freezes enemies within a large radius around you. Both of these abilities have around a 22-second cooldown. Now you'll notice Blighted Rounds. The issue with Blighted Rounds compared to the Trickster's Twisted Rounds is Twisted Rounds has I believe like a 15-second cooldown. Blighted Rounds has without, and this you can see it. Where is it? One of these reduces cooldown by 15%. Without that, it's 48 seconds cooldown for Blighted Rounds. That is very long compared to the Trickster's Twisted Rounds and then the Volcanic Rounds on the Pyromancer, which I believe is 23 or something like that. This is much longer than the other two. More than double the Pyromancer's one and like more than triple the Trickster's. But we can, like I said, there's several workarounds for that, and we're going to have this ability up all the time. So I wouldn't really worry about that. Let's talk about the skill tree. So I'm just trying to keep this video as short as I can. So I'm going to be trying to going pretty quick. You can always pause it. I'll let you pause it. Look at the skill tree if you just want to copy it. But if you want to actually know what everything does, we're going to go into that now. So the melee skill for the Technomancer, we'll go over that. Just inflicts a freeze in enemies in a small radius around you. It is cripplingly loud. It is like debilitating when you melee. You have to. I swear to God, you have to turn the sound effects in this game down, just really low because of the melees. All the characters' melees are just deafening. It sounds like someone took an icicle and like stabbed it through a chalkboard and like scraped it all around. It's just ugh. It's very loud. The melees are a bit loud for my taste, but like it's ear shattering. Is the only word to describe it. But anyway, the healing mechanic for the Technomancer, you recover a portion of damage dealt as health. So you do not actually have to kill as the Technomancer to get your healing. You have inherent lifesteal on every weapon, no matter what the perks are, just by playing as a Technomancer. And your passives increase long-range weapon damage, skill leech, and weapon leech by 15%. So, we're focusing on the top tree, the Pestilence skill tree. We're going to get a lot of damage out of this, not a lot of survivability out of this, so you're going to want to... I'll show you some stuff you can do later on, some mods and skills that you can actually spec into in order to have more survivability. And I have noticed that with this build is that there is not as much survivability. Without the lifesteal, you would not be able... This build would not work because you would not be able to survive. The fact that you're doing so much damage with this build, I just want pure damage. But because we have lifesteal on the Technomancer, a portion of that damage is getting fed back to us as health. So the more damage we're doing, the more healing we're getting. And that's basically the idea behind this build. All right. So, Impact Amplifier increases your weapon damage by 8%. So, we're just going with that. This is starting off the tree. Weapon Leech by 5%. Don't go this way. I'm going to show... Actually, I'm just going to reset the skill tree, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what I do. So, this is as I level up. I'm going to show you what I do. So, I do this first. Then we go to Sower of Decay to reduce Decay skill cooldown for our Blighted rounds. Because... at first, you're not going to have a lot of these mods that are going to enable us to have the infinite Blighted round, so you want that cooldown to be as short as possible. It's still going to be very long. Cooldowns on the Technomancer, if you're caught without any of your abilities up, you're in trouble. So you want to always have some abilities up just in your back pocket. And you want to ideally have the Blighted rounds up all the time. But if you're already in the end game, you should have a lot of these mods. So we're going to Armor Piercing just to continue down the skill tree. And we're actually not going to go straight down the skill tree. First, we're going to go down... critical damage by 15%. Now, that is very nice, but nowhere near compared to this skill. Exposing Toxin. Every time Toxic is afflicted on an enemy, vulnerable status effect is inflicted as well. And as you remember, Blighted Rounds applies Toxic not only to the main enemy that you're shooting, but it also chains to nearby enemies, applying Toxic to all of them, which in this case is inherently applying the vulnerable status effect as well, which is a 25% debuff on the enemy, which means they take 25% damage, additional damage from every source, including teammates, abilities, guns, and everything. Your teammates' abilities, anything. Any damage they take will be increased by 25%. And then you're going to want to go to this one. Vulnerable is increased by 40%. So I don't even know, I'm not good at math, but that's a lot. And all these damage bonuses in this game, are almost all of them are multiplicative damage bonuses, which is absolutely insane. So the damage scales up very quickly as you go through this tree. It'll start to ramp up. Just quick recap so far. Every time we apply Toxic, which with our Blighted rounds, which is going to be up all the time, all the enemies are going to have Toxic, and they're all going to be taking 25% more damage from the vulnerable, even more with Marked for Execution. We're going to have our Toxic last 30% longer. So we can get a little bit more damage out of that. And you'll see why later on as well. Increase your weapon damage again. Now, if you are sniping, you can snipe with this build. I personally tend to use assault weapons more than snipers with this build. But you can snipe with this build and it will work. It will do a lot of damage. And you will still have the infinite ammo as long as you're killing trash mobs with your sniper as well. So increasing your sniper weapon damage and the drop rate and everything is nice, but the damage mainly. So if you are sniping, you're going to spec into that. I'm actually going to spec into the Assault Master because I'm using assault weapons mostly, so we'll spec into that instead. But you can obviously mix and match. And if you are using a sniper, quick note, you're going to want to spec into these nitrogen capsules things, and it reduces the long range by the distance considered to be long range by 3 meters, so up to 6 meters. And remember, you get 15% inherent long range weapon damage. That's not just for snipers. That's for any weapon you're using at what is considered by the game to be long range. So you want to spec into those so you can actually get your bonus sniper damage at even closer ranges, up to 6 meters closer. But I don't really use snipers that much, so I'm not going to be doing that. And when I do use snipers, I find they work just fine without this. But if you're using an actual sniper build and that is your main weapon focus, you're probably going to want to spec into those three. Enemies afflicted with Toxic receive 10% more damage. That is in addition to the vulnerable status effect, which is boosted by this as well. This is just Toxic. So any enemy that is afflicted by Toxic, whether you do it or a teammate afflicts the enemy with Toxin, they will take 10% more damage. All right. We're going to increase our weapon damage again. And we're going to go Assault weapon damage here, as well as Assault Master. Because like I said, I am using assault weapons. This applies to submachine guns, double guns, assault rifles, and light machine guns. For this build, you're going to want something with a very large mag and a decent fire rate. I think double guns and light machine guns are the best for this. Submachine guns technically have a big mag and a high fire rate, but they chew through ammo very quick, and they have little to no range. Honestly, not much more range than a shotgun in this game, the submachine guns. Some of them are very powerful, don't get me wrong, and you can make it work, especially while leveling. But in Endgame, I think a light machine gun or a double gun is going to be better because of the ammo consumption versus mag size, and also the damage that they do. And as for assault rifles, I just think, in my opinion, I don't see the point of using an assault rifle when double guns are a thing. They literally are just a better assault rifle. They have faster fire rate, larger mag, and more damage from what I've seen. So I wouldn't even bother with an assault rifle unless it's like a good legendary or a purple one that has good mods on it. Armor piercing here. And we're going to come back to this, and you'll see why in a minute. Increase your long-range weapon damage by 30%. That's nice to have, especially if you're speccing into nitrogen capsules, because that'll be on top of the 15% inherent. Increasing magazine size by 50%. This is huge, and this will allow us to have get even more out of our blighted rounds before it's on cooldown. Ideally, we never want to have it on cooldown, but in certain situations, it will inevitably end up being that way. Charged gunshot is good if you're using a sniper build or even like with shotguns or something with a high damage. You can make this work very well with those single shot rifles that are one-shot reload, because the first bullet after reload deals damage with 200% increased weapon damage. Happens once every 5 seconds. So that could be good with those single shot rifles. But what we're going to do is we're going to go for Purge. For enemies afflicted by Toxin, receive 30% more damage. In addition to the 10% here, in addition to the vulnerable status effect, which is increased by 40%. These enemies, like anyone that has Toxin on them, is just going to be melted. You're just going to melt them. And finally, Empowering Antenna. Activating Decay increases weapon damage for you and your allies by 40% for 10 seconds. This is including Blighted rounds, which is why we're using. We're going to pick that up. Now, like I said, Blighted rounds is going to be active a lot of the time. So during your mobbing sections, you're not really going to have this active very often. But if you have your abilities charged, let's say you're going into a boss fight, like a big boss fight, and you haven't popped your ability yet, you can pop your Blighted rounds as soon as you're ready to do damage, and you and your allies will get a 40% gun damage buff for 10 seconds, in addition to all of your Blighted rounds nonsense that is going on with the skill tree. You're going to get that, and that'll help you shred some bosses even easier. Now, we still have 3 skill points left. So this is what we made it to the capstone skill. We still have 3 skill points left. You can spend them how you want. I spec into 2 sides of the power. Now, this is risky. You got to make sure you have... I wouldn't spec into this until you have some of the mods that I have that enable you to actually keep the Blighted rounds up at all times, because, remember, your lifesteal is what's keeping you alive. So the more damage you're doing, the more lifesteal you have. So 20% more damage, you're getting more lifesteal, but you're also taking 15% more damage from all sources. Now, the fact that the damage buff that you deal is more than the damage buff that you take means, unless my math is wrong, which it can be wrong, quite a bit because I'm terrible at math, but from what I understand, you're going to be healing, hopefully more, you're going to be getting more additional healing than you would additional damage, as long as you're continuously spraying enemies. Now, we got 2 more skill points. You can spend them wherever you want. I'm going to increase my weapon leech, and I'm also going to spec into blur screen for health regeneration threshold, which basically means like that little line where your health regenerates and then stops. Like you get 20% more of that, 20% more health from that, and that'll help us with our survivability. So this is my skill tree. This is what it looks like. Pretty much all in the pestilence thing. I got a couple things down here. The exposing toxin, the clips one, and the purge things are as well as marks for execution are the most important things here. This video is already getting kind of long, but I want to make sure I cover everything. So let's try to speed it up a little bit. Armor mods. There is 3 armor mods that you want to have for this build that make the blighted rounds work pretty much indefinitely. and that is Trick Up the Sleeve. This is the most important one, really. While the skill is active, killing shots grant you 30% extra bullets in your mag. And this is why you want to have a large mag size. The 50% buff to that will help. You want to have like something like a double gun with a 60 mag size. This now has 90. As you can see, this will now have a 90 round mag. And I'll get 30% of that mag back. So pretty much like 27 to 30 bullets every time I get a kill while the Twisted Rounds is active. Then... so you can use that, or you can use like an LMG. I don't think I have any LMGs with me, but you can use like an LMG. It would be even better for that, but it's a little bit slower fire rate, and I prefer that burst damage. So there's that. There is, where's the other ones? Spare mag. Now this is kind of a fail-safe, but while you're leveling up until you get like this mod and stuff, until you get the Trick Up the Sleeve, you... whenever you end up getting that, but you want spare mag as well. Just it's kind of like a fail-safe, even in endgame. So basically, the skill is effective for one additional magazine before triggering the cooldown. So you can unload an entire mag of blighted rounds, reload, and unload an entire second mag. Now, since our mag is being refreshed, we're usually on the first mag through pretty much every mobbing section. We're on the entire first mag, and then so it's only for bosses that this really comes into play, where you can just unload both magazines on the boss. And a lot of times, a lot of bosses you can actually kill using that. And the last one is critical analysis. You don't really need this, but it increases your critical damage by 30% while blighted rounds is active. And the rest of the stuff I'm putting on here is just kind of stuff that came on my armor. Some of this stuff is not really that good. Personal space is decent. You get a 50% bonus, 15% bonus to close range weapon damage. And then I get health regeneration, increased health regeneration by 5% in max health for 8 seconds after activating my fixing wave skill. Radical Therapy is another good one. It's a tier 2 mod where you deal 15% more damage against enemies afflicted by toxic. Now that stacks, yes, that does stack with the vulnerable and the purge things that give it 40% total. You get 15 additional, even more percent damage against enemies afflicted by toxin, and that's an armor mod. You can put that on. That's really good. There's some other weapon mods to keep on the lookout for. Brain Eater, critical shots do not consume ammo. So that's really nice to have. That'll help you if you're getting critical shots. That'll help you to sustain it if you don't have the Trick Up the Sleeve. That's pretty much the core of the build, is blighted rounds with Trick Up the Sleeve. You pretty much need that. You don't necessarily need to have the extra mag and even the crit damage, but you know, pretty much the extra mag is like a failsafe, and the crit damage always helps. Can't hurt. So I think that's about it. And so this build, like I said, that's the order that I bought stuff in, and that carried me through the campaign and then into the end game, and I'm now in the end game. So I'm doing one of the expeditions right here. I'm trying to keep this video short, but I think it's a little too late for that. So I'm just going to show you guys some gameplay real quick. I wasn't necessarily going to do that. Let's activate our blighted rounds. See right there, he just gets shredded. I believe this is challenge tier, I want to say 6 or 7 is what I'm at. Like I said, I'm like a day behind, so but hopefully I'll get the challenge tier 15 within like the next couple days or so, and I can get to run some, maybe even the Eye of the Storm. The Eye of the Storm is like that final, what's it called, expedition or whatever. It's literally in what it sounds like, literally the Eye of the Storm. That was a captain, by the way, that we just melted. That was like this thing, and you can see our ammo. So let's take a look. So we got 86. Kill this guy, and get back up to 88 now. Let's pop our healing wave. And, oh. So, yeah, you can see some of these guys are bosses, and they're getting just absolutely decimated. Let's go ahead and just push up here a little bit. Not necessarily trying to complete the expedition. I'm not going to show the whole expedition gameplay right now, but and you can see right there, that toxin spread to the other guy that I didn't even shoot. Oop, pop that. Yep, see the toxin spreads to nearby enemies. There's a ridiculous amount of damage. This is just absolutely crazy. Yeah, I died, but that's all right. I was just trying to push up to so you definitely you want to be, you can't really push up too aggressively if there's that many enemies, because you still got to make sure you can out damage all the enemies that are damaging you. But this build is absolutely insane. So anyway, that's pretty much it for the build. I would love it if you guys would try it out for yourselves and let me know what you guys think. If you guys have an Technomancer that is endgame ready, I would love to know what you guys think about this build. I'm personally really enjoying this, and I think this is honestly going to be my main character with this build for quite a long time. So really enjoying that, and I'm definitely expect more Outriders content here on the channel. Sorry for the video being so long. I just really wanted to make sure I covered everything. Hopefully you guys do enjoy the video, You want to see more build videos? I think the next character I'm going to do is either going to be Trickster or Pyromancer. I haven't decided yet. But if you guys want to see, or you guys want to see in the comments section below, let me know which character you want to see a build on first. And I can try and do that for you guys. I'll try and get those characters to endgame as well. I want to try and get this character a little bit higher in the challenge tiers, and then I'll probably start on my Pyromancer or Trickster, whichever I decide. So anyway, hopefully you guys do enjoy, like I said, and I'll talk to you guys later with another video. Peace.